Whoa, time for guest hosts. Whoa, it's time for guest hosts. Whoa, love the guest hosts. I just want a guest host. It's episode 6 of Guest Host Raw, the show where I review every episode of the guest host era of Monday Night Raw. That fabulous time in 2009 and 2010 where WWE was so desperate for ratings and relevance that they reached out to everyone they could outside of the pro wrestling bubble and brought them in once a week as a special guest host, Saturday Night Live style. And the first 5 or so weeks of this experiment, there have been highs, there have been lows. We've talked about how brutal that ZZ Top episode was a couple of weeks ago. But then, the next one was Shaquille O'Neal, and what a breath of fresh air. That was such a great episode of Raw that was actually improved by the presence of a celebrity guest. And will that streak continue? We're going to find out tonight when we revisit Raw from August 3rd, 2009 at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Uncasville, Connecticut. Of course, it seemed like so many times over the years Raw would visit that arena there at the Mohegan Sun, of course, it being in the backyard of the company's, home base. And this week's guest host, officially, it is just Jeremy Piven, who is the star of Entourage on HBO, the star of the upcoming movie The Goods, Live Hard, Sell Hard. And of course, I think a lot of people might, in my age at least, might have first seen him when he was in the movie PCU, which of course aired endlessly on repeats on Comedy Central when I was growing up. And so that was my first real exposure to Jeremy Piven. And then he fell off as an actor forever. And then Entourage revitalized his career, his time as Ari Gold. He did a great job as that character, and that absolutely brought him back to relevance in Hollywood, ergo, which is why he is now the star of this movie and the guest host of Monday Night Raw. But he is not alone, as you will soon find out, because right away they open up, Lillian Garcia introduces Jeremy Piven. He comes out in this custom Trans Am, and then he pops the trunk of the car, and Dr. Ken Jeong is there as well. That's his co-star from the movie. And Dr. Ken, of course, is also a big deal this time because The Hangover recently came out, and he was a breakaway star from that movie because that was really when he blew up, and he's been getting a lot of work ever since then. And I'm not sure why they didn't formally announce him as a guest host. I guess, he wasn't a big enough name yet to be advertised, even though he was kind of becoming that a guy who gets a lot of work just for being kind of a wacky sidekick. And boy, he plays that to the hilt on this one because just from the get-go, he makes a lot of noise. He's like, "What's up? Woo! Ay, 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 ay," and just get used to it because that's all he does tonight is just he shouts into the microphone, he puts on funny voices, and he just is very annoying. And he's supposed to be the babyface at this point, so it's worth pointing that out. So Jeong is the first one with the mic, and he introduces Piven by saying, he says, "Dear Mohegans," which is a great line. "Dear Mohegans, this is your guest host. He's a 3-time Emmy winner and a 1-time Golden Globe nominee. It's Jeremy Piven." And he gets a nice reaction from the crowd. And then Piven introduces Dr. Ken as you might know him as the Asian fellow from The Hangover, which is the #1 R-rated movie of all time as of August 2009. And so he gets a reaction as well. And so then Piven's like, "I've always wanted to do this." He gets out of the ring, runs up the ramp, poses, and gets this big row of pyro, which gets a great reaction. That's a funny moment. Again, Dr. Ken kind of ruins it when he just beforehand just yells, "Oh no, he did it! Oh no, he didn't!" before he even does anything. And all night I'm gonna be yelling at, my computer saying, "Shut up, Dr. Ken, just shut up." And Jeremy says it's going to be July 4th all night long here. We have a great show for you tonight. Triple H is battling Legacy. He's good so far. I will say this. Out comes The Miz. He interrupts, and his first line is, "Are you having fun with your little pimp?" The way that Dr. Ken is dressed is ridiculous, by the way. He's got the crop top and the pimp hat and the cane. The price tag is still on his jacket. He's definitely just playing a goofy character just to play a goofy character, essentially. And, he says, I'm also an acclaimed TV star, and you're making a mockery of this show. And Piven calls him out on that. And he says, look, we're actors. We're here to promote a movie. But, before you got here, you were on a reality TV show drinking too many adult beverages and passing out in hot tubs and getting paid. And then he goes into this rant about how he knows that this audience here has the goods, but you definitely do not have the goods. Okay, what's that mean? Like, I know it's the tie-in for the movie and everything, but okay, what does it mean for the crowd to have the goods? What good is that going to give him? And Dr. Ken continues to be the most annoying person. Miz tells him to shut up. He calls him Lloyd, which is an Entourage reference, another Asian character on that show. So it was, that was a funny callback. And then Piven just puts a pacifier in Ken's mouth. Like, this is nuts. Like, this dynamic, this whatever persona that Ken is portraying here, and the relationship that he and Piven have is wild. So Miz wants another match with John Cena. He's like, it wasn't fair that he beat me last week, so I want it again. Oh no, not again. Stop it. You cannot tell me this roster is so shallow that we want Miz and John Cena again. This is like, I gotta be the third time in 6 episodes. We're averaging a Miz John Cena match, once every 2 weeks here on Guest Host Raw. So John Cena comes out, and they talk about how he's a movie star in his own right. He's a 5-time world champion. It's weird to hear him being regarded only as a 5-time champion now here in the summer or the early fall of 2025. And so Cena starts off by telling Dr. Ken, oh, thanks for the script. That rash is going away great. Thanks. So that's kind of a weird, self-deprecating line by Cena. And then he goes into this big, like overly scripted, like, gosh, I'm the big hero of this picture kind of delivery. Very similar to what he did on the week that ZZ Top was hosting, but now he's got like Piven to bounce off of, where he's like, look, last time I fought The Miz last week, I beat him in 2 minutes, and nobody wants to see that again. He's trash talking The Miz like while The Miz is there, but Cena's back is to him. He's like, he's right here behind me, isn't he? Like, what is this Bugs Bunny delivery you're giving here? And meanwhile, Ken's just going, haha, Miz bad. And so Cena is seamlessly weaving in, a plug for the movie with Piven being here, where he says, tonight needs to be special. Your movie, The Goods, is dropping on August 14th, and the world will go to see Jeremy Piven play the best damn car salesman in the world. So guess what, hot shot, as he's now referring to Miz, it's game time, and you just got sold a rusted out 74 Pinto. And he tells Piven, in a day and age where we can watch movies on our phones and cook a turkey and bake a turkey in a half hour, no, you can't. He says, you have to be able to make this match interesting. It's like they're kind of calling themselves out here. It's like, yeah, you have to make this interesting. And Cena says, years from now, when cars can fly and cats and dogs are speaking English and society has collapsed, they will know 2 things. That on August 14th, 2009, these people went out and saw a hell of a movie. Yeah, District 9. And Jeremy Piven came to Raw and delivered the goods. And God bless him, that speech actually got the fans kind of fired up for this and fired up for Piven here. And so Jeremy's been calling The Miz Les Miz this whole time, which is actually, I think, pretty funny and clever for him. But he says, it seems you've been running and you've been hiding. I make the calls. I'm the guest host. I will do this. Tonight, the 2 of you will fight, and Miz, you will not run or hide in a lumberjack match. And meanwhile, he's saying this as Ken is just like crawling on and around him like a weird cat-like creature. So the Miz is uninterested by this. He's like, wow, how bold, a lumberjack match. And then Piven follows up by saying, when you guys go back to LA, your home turf, if you lose, we will ban you from the Summerfest. And that's it. That's the line. That's what everyone's been counting down to. He said it. He said the Summerfest. And so Cena immediately jumps in. Oh, the Summerslam is what you meant to say, right? Summerslam, slam. And Piven goes, yes, the Summerslam and the Summerfest, whatever the hell that is. Like, oh man, like everyone knew this was coming. This is the top faux pas of the guest host era. It's one thing to say the strongest man alive, Mark Henry, but to get the branding so wrong that you have completely misnamed, only one of the biggest shows the company puts on all year, biggest party of the summer, that is a complete whiff. This segment, and dare I say Jeremy Piven, has been okay. Dr. Ken, very annoying, but at least Piven's been able to carry himself well. He's got that kind of smarm about him that makes him a good wrestling character, but then he says Summerfest. And I think that's it. Like, no one takes him seriously after that ever again. But they're not done trying to save this segment because Cena then has to reiterate, so we fight a Lumberjack match, and if The Miz loses to me tonight, he's banned from Summerslam. That's what you're saying. And then Piven's got to keep going. He says, we'll go deeper. You're not going to be allowed back in that arena ever again. And then Cena stops to whisper something in Piven's ear. Or I was like, hey man, you need to get the fuck back on this script. Here's what you've got to say. And so Piven says, if you lose tonight, then you'll be banned from Monday Night Raw permanently for all eternity. I love that. Forever and ever. No takesies backsies. You've got to go forever, all eternity. And then that's pretty much how the segment ends. And then Cena and Piven lead the crowd into a nah, 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 hey, hey, goodbye song to close it out. So yeah, that was what highs and lows from this. Like I said, Jeremy had good energy, but he didn't really know what he was talking about. Ken Jeong was way too much. And then, John Cena being his god-awful cheesy self. Thank goodness he was there, because at least he was able to steer the ship. There was no one else out there to really save them. And had it just been that, had Piven never said Summerfest, and if he stayed on track and said, ban you from SummerSlam, then no one would be talking about this. Like I said, this really just made the guest host era more so than the blatant, cheap outside project plugs, and more so than just having the celebrities out there. For this, I think just really soured so many people on this, forever after this. So this, but if he didn't say Summerfest, no one would have cared, and this segment would have just been okay, somewhere in the middle. So after the commercial break, we get a recap of the Beat the Clock challenge last week when Jack Swagger got beat by a surprise roll-up courtesy of Evan Bourne. So we have, let's have them wrestle yet again. We have a one-on-one matchup, no stakes with this one, just some pride, and Swagger takes on Bourne. And again, it's why do we have these matches? This was just what they did. They would have rematches over and over again. In lieu of, other kind of storytelling. And it was all this back and forth, in terms of trading wins. And that's what happens here. Swagger, he's, got this big waist lock on Bourne. He's throwing him around. And they're playing up the size disparity again. Lawler with a funny line here where he says, whales are endangered, but ants are doing just fine. Swagger goes for the gut wrench, but Bourne's able to counter with another surprise roll-up, but there's a kick out. Swagger just kicks the hell out of him after that, hits his gut wrench for certain this time, and wins handily. And so, again, Swagger getting his win back. He starts to beat up Bourne a little more, but MVP runs out and makes the save, chases Swagger away. And, again, Swagger getting his heat back to prepare him for, I can only assume, the continuing feud with MVP. And meanwhile, Bourne, loses the steam that he might have had and the momentum he could have, built off of from that win he had against Jack Swagger. So what does it prove that what Bourne did? And, do either of these men truly progress after a match like this? They show us a recap of last week's big episode when Shaq was the host. And, again, that was a great episode from top to bottom. I think Shaq did a great job as the host, great involvement in that main event segment. And, in that hype package, the recap, they show, you got on ESPN, but they have a half second of the ESPN ESPN coverage. And I don't know if it was a rights thing or what, but they just wanted to get it in there at the very end. Oh, hey, it was on SportsCenter. And that was it. And then afterward, they take you to this, online vote on the website. Who would win in a match between Shaq and the Big Show? Like, go cast your vote online right now. I think it would be the Big Show. And then Lawler's like, well, I'm going to go online and vote right now. Shaq. You just hear him say Shaq really under his breath just before the graphic goes away. But yeah, I think it's crazy how they teased us with Show and Shaq for so long. And everyone thought, well, it's going to definitely happen at SummerSlam, or, it's going to happen at WrestleMania, or whatever. And it never really does. Again, it doesn't really get a payoff till Mania 32, and even that is pretty pathetic. But we go to the Piven zone in Jeremy's office, and the Big Show is there. He says he wants Shaq one-on-one. I want Shaquille O'Neal. And Jeremy's like, no, man, he's not coming back. That's in the past. Don't worry about what people said about you on YouTube, about you being fat and all this stuff. We want to help, put you and bring you to the next level. And I guess this is a scene where, Piven is just kind of showcasing his good negotiation skills. He does this in the goods when he's a car salesman. I don't know how, they didn't really explicitly say that in any kind of commentary, but I think that's what they were going for. But he's basically able to talk Show out of being mad because Big Show is like, okay, well, I'll fight Jeremy Piven. That'll get some ratings. And so Piven's like, no, how about instead you have a United States title match with Kofi Kingston? And then Big Show's just thinking out loud, well, I'm already the unified tag team champion, so then I could also be the United States champion. And so he thinks about this as he's totally, nullified, threat nullified. Piven has totally shut him down, by giving him that U.S. title match. I'm surprised he got the name of the wrestler right, honestly. But the segment was all right as long as Dr. Ken would shut up. Divas tag action up next as Mickie James and Gail Kim take on Beth Phoenix and Jillian Hall. They love that smart, sexy, powerful tagline because they beat you over the head with it as this match goes on. And Lawler has this weird line where he's like, I've got my own tagline. A Divas match away keeps the doctor away. Boo! Hey, you know what? Smart, sexy, and powerful is better than that by a mile. And then Cole just kind of laughs at him and goes, you're going to sow some wild oats tonight? And then I cannot make out what Lawler says here because he's saying something like, well, my wild oats have... I'm like, what? I played that back so much trying to figure out what it said. I could not figure out where he's going with that. I think maybe Vince was yelling in his ear, telling him just to shut that down. Cole calling Jillian the karaoke queen, which I thought was kind of funny, but made me think, man, if she's coming out, they're coming out to Beth's theme. I thought that would have been funny if Jillian tried to sing along with the ooh, the part of Beth Phoenix's theme. For her to try and butcher that would have been hilarious. Mickie is off to a strong start in this matchup, hits this big diving Fez press onto Beth. Beth dropping Mickie over the top rope, and she takes over. Lawler with another sad line where he says, that look when a diva wants you? And Cole's like, no. And Lawler's like, neither me neither. That's why I was asking you. Mickie with the hot tag to Gail Kim. She is all over Jillian, but Beth makes this blind tag when she's pushed into the corner. She lays Gail out from behind, hits the glam slam to win for the baddies. It's a good little match. It actually got more time, I think, than Bourne and Swagger did earlier. And I just don't know, why can't the baby faces just win a match like this on Raw? I know there was the 6-woman tag earlier, but this one is it just felt very formulaic to me. At least it wasn't the champion taking the loss on this one. Continuing his mission to go after Randy Orton and the WWE Championship, we actually get a recap of Legacy screwing him over last week in the Beat the Clock Challenge. And this week, the H-Man is looking for some revenge. He wants a 2-on-1 handicap match, tag mode on, with Rhodes and DiBiase of Legacy. Trips, he's looking good early on here. He's able to backdrop Cody mid-pedigree attempt, and then Triple H throws Cody outside onto Child Ted as we get our commercial break. The Legacy, they're able to get their heat and just work over Triple H for the longest time with a variety of holds. Cody goes for the moonsault, and this is Triple H's opportunity to come back. Cody misses the moonsault entirely. I just love that every time, no matter what year you're watching him, even like today, Cody's moonsault is so funny because the way his arms just kind of like flail out as he's going out there. It's always very charming to me, and this one was no different. So Triple H essentially hot tags himself, goes on this big run back. He goes for the pedigree on Cody, but Ted's able to catch him with Dream Street. Then Cody hits Crossroads. Just one is all it takes to pin and defeat Triple H. I cannot believe what a weird timeline 2009 is. So Legacy, it's 2-on-1, but them's the rules. They defeated Triple H all by themselves. Not really cheating, not using weapons or anything, but they kind of win clean. And then afterward, they're celebrating on the stage, and Triple H is in the ring, and he's selling, and he's got the microphone. He just goes, "Ow, ow, all right. That hurt." And then he goes into this big, what a cool hero I am, reflecting after a loss like this, but I'm still the coolest guy. He's like, "That did not go as I planned. I don't get this. I mean, is it just that these guys are that good? They keep beating me every which way I turn. Maybe they're just too much for me. Maybe they're that tough. I used to be good at this gang warfare stuff. Maybe I should start another group. Maybe I should bring one back. Maybe I should bring back Evolution," which gets a medium pop. "That won't work. Randy's a jerk. Batista's hurt all the time. And Flair's signing autographs at the VFW or something. I got a better idea. Maybe I just make one phone call. Maybe that's what I do. Maybe I make one phone call. And if you're not down with that, I got 2 words for ya." And then you hear a very faint "Sorry" chant from the crowd because most of the people in that audience, they're not allowed to. Their parents won't let them say "suck it." Wow, Triple H, even in defeat, has to not only get the last word, but also be the coolest guy in the room. Legacy cannot even enjoy their clean victory over the guy for 60 seconds without him just shrugging it off and being like, "So what? DX is back, bitches." We're back in the Piven zone with Chavo Guerrero. He's there talking to the guest hosts, and Ken has a new coat on. And also I noticed that Alicia Fox and Rosa Mendez are just sitting on the couch in the background, smiling and just not doing anything. They're just being the companions, I guess, for the guest hosts tonight. And so Piven's like, "Man, they've really done you dirty the last few weeks. All these different ways they've screwed you over against the Horn Gobbler. Well, Charo, can you do this? Can you wrestle a one-on-one match with the Horn Gobbler, with what God gave you?" And Chavo says, "Yes, I can do that." And then he mistakes Ken as the guy from Heroes. Not quite as clever as the Lloyd line from the first segment, because at least that was a show that Jeremy Piven is on. Hey, do you remember nearly a month ago when the Colognes broke up? Well, we're finally getting that big first one-on-one match between them, Carlito versus Primo. And this one, it's a really solid match between the two of them. I mean, I would expect nothing less from these two with their pedigree and their background, I'm sure growing up as they did in wrestling. They do spend a lot of time on commentary talking about Carlos Colon and the legacy that he left and whatnot as this match goes on. Some good back and forth in this one. I love that Primo incorporates the cartwheel into his big comeback in the midst of this big brother versus brother rivalry. He takes a shoulder into the ring post, so his arm becomes his target. Primo blocks one backstabber attempt. He's got a roll-up attempt. Carlito kicks the bum shoulder, hits the backstabber for real that time, and wins the match. I thought it was nice, but they really don't put any kind of emotional weight into this matchup. Like I said, we should care more that these brothers who were former tag team champions together are breaking up, but they really don't give you any kind of weight to this. They just move right on after this matchup is over. It's given the same treatment as Chavo and Hornswoggle almost. They just don't care. And speaking of which, we are at week after week of humiliation on Chavo Guerrero. Will his luck change in the big rematch this week as he takes on Hornswoggle? Chavo makes his way out to the ring. There's no Hornswoggle, though. We see Piven and Dr. Ken on the screen, and they say, "Hey, sorry, man, Hornswoggle has adult chicken pox, so he can't make it tonight. And we set you up. We got you in a match against his cousin, Mark Swoggle." And I like how he kind of slips in, hey, we set you up. Like, hey, you know, that can be taken one of two ways. Like, hey, we set you up with a replacement, or hey, this is a setup. So then we hear Mark Henry's music and we hear Cole go, oh my! And it's time for the strongest leprechaun alive, Mark Henry, coming out with his little green hat. And the match is on now. Chavo tries to escape, but Henry brings him back in with authority. He holds him up forever as he's got him up for the slam, and Chavo is just shouting, no, no, as Mark hits the strongest slam alive to win the match in mere moments. And then after he wins, he leaves the ring. He just kind of looks around for a bit after his music stops playing. He lifts up the ring skirt, and then Hornswoggle pops out. Oh my God, get away from him. He has adult chicken pox. He's highly contagious. So anyway, Mark just sets Chavo up. He gets him in a position for Hornswoggle to hit the tadpole splash on Chavo, and then the music plays. They do a little dance. Like, he gets Mark Henry to click his heels, which is a funny sight. So that was kind of worth it, I guess. But man, like a double dose of humiliation for Chavo this week. He's punked out twice. I hope he got well paid in this role. I hope he was the best paid, silly jobber guy in WWE at this point. We're backstage, and once again, Dr. Ken has changed his jacket. It looks like he killed and skinned the Grimace to wear that coat, but he actually describes it as a grape chinchilla hybrid. Actually, he kind of looks more like one of that monster animatronic from Chuck E. Cheese. Like, that's the kind of consistency of the fur. Anyway, the champion, Randy Orton, comes in, and Piven with this all-time just great line that it kind of gets no-sold because he says it so fast, but he's like, I know you're upset because you're not funny, but I've got a great job for you tonight as the guest ring announcer for tonight's main event. Like, Jesus, like that's such a cutting line. I know you're upset because you're not funny. And like, there's no time to react to that because I just keep going. And Orton is just like, guest ring announcer, who do you think you are? And Piven goes, well, I'm the guest host. I call the shots. I'm here to promote my movie. And Orton goes, nobody cares about your movie. And then Piven just like, he just looks right in the camera and breaks the fourth wall. I'm like, oh, you mean The Goods? Opening August 14th? And Orton just like, has had enough of this silly bullshit. And he's like, look, I've kicked Vince McMahon in the skull. What makes you think I would not do that to either of you? And then he storms off. And then Piven and Ken just kind of sad. It's like, and Dr. Ken goes, it's not fun anymore. Like, that's like the funniest thing he's done all show, is just saying that as we get the dissolve into the next scene. Up next for the U.S. Championship, Kofi Kingston defends against the Big Show. And folks, I didn't realize going into it that we were going to be watching an historic episode of Raw, because this is the debut of, well, it's the big show. Yes, the dawn of one of the worst hybrid themes of all time, the Jericho theme, where it's literally somebody is just flipping the switch between Jericho's theme and Big Show's theme, back and forth, but they thought enough to go the big show at the beginning. Oh man, it's terrible. And speaking of terrible, they show you the results of the online poll from earlier in the night. Who would win between Shaq and the Big Show? 83% for Shaq. What a bunch of marks there on the internet. No wonder Michael Cole buries him so much on commentary. And speaking of commentary, Jericho joins in, the other unified tag team champion, and he says the crowd are stupid hypocrites for that poll result. It's not a popularity contest. This is real, and that Show would break Shaq in two. He'd break him in half. The match begins, and Show picks up Kofi by his neck. It's strength versus speed. It's a classic, big little matchup here. Show's acting vicious toward his opponent as Jericho calls him the new Big Show. How many times have we heard that? Show goes for this Vader bomb. It takes him all day to do it. Like, he's there setting up forever. And then when he finally hits it, they pick the worst camera angle of all time, because you can see he just comes right on his knees and gives so much daylight to Kingston. Like, he comes down light. He's not crushing him, but boy, they really exposed that. So that was not the best angle for it. Kofi's able to get his foot on the ropes. Jericho brings up, hey, between me and Big Show, we have 40 championships between the two of us. How many titles do you have, King? And Lawler goes, in WWE? And like Jericho should have said yes, because the answer is no, but he's 0. But Jericho's like, all the titles. And he shouldn't have stepped in that one, because Lawler, I think's got 50 or 60 USWA world titles to his credit. He's got 100 or so championship wins, 70 of them in Memphis alone. But Lawler, he was very diplomatic. He says I've got a fair number of titles, but I'll leave it at that. I thought that was funny. So Kofi starts fighting back. He hits a top rope boom drop, and he lands right on his ass. That was the most painful looking thing I'd ever seen, just right in his tailbone. It's not enough to put the Big Show away. He pushes Kofi off during the cover. He's got him in the corner, and he's just laying in with the shots. He ignores the referee's count, and he gets disqualified. And they're surprised. The heel's what? I can't believe I got disqualified for ignoring the 5 count. So I guess the Big Show is just an idiot now and forgets how to win matches. Because this is exactly what happened last week. It's why the Crime Time match ended in a DQ. This is the exact same thing. What's the point of this? You can't be on one hand, I'm gonna be a double champion, we're gonna have all this power, and then also be I'm a dumbass and I'm gonna get myself DQ'd. And you see Jericho in the ring with him going yeah, and okay, you don't look any more impressive. You both look kind of dumb right now. We get a recap of the 2-on-1 match from earlier where Legacy beat Triple H as if that mattered, and then Triple H said he was gonna make that phone call, and sure enough, we see him in the locker room making that phone call, but on a landline? Where's your cell phone, man? And he's just hey man, what's going on? Good. You sound like you're real busy, so I'll make this quick. I've got a proposition for you about work. I know what you said, I'm never coming back, but it never meant anything before. Did you see what just happened to me? You're not watching. You got a what? I thought you didn't do jobs. Put all that stuff behind you. As of now, I need you. I've got one thing to ask of you. Are you ready? And then we get a dial tone. We can't hear Shawn Michaels on the other line, as it's, suggested, alluded to. But we can hear the dial tone after Triple H goes, are you ready? He's hello, son of a... So yeah, again, we're planting the seeds. We know what's coming now, folks. It's pretty obvious at this point. Well, next time on Raw, we're going back to the Wrestler Well for guest host, because the WWE Hall of Famer Sergeant Slaughter is going to have the hosting duties in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We'll see how that pans out. And we go now to our main event. It's the Lumberjack match, John Cena versus The Miz. And if I have this right, if The Miz loses, he is banned from Summerslam, I guess banned from the Staples Center, and also banned from Raw for all of eternity. So we have this, poor Miz doesn't even get an entrance. He's there in the ring after the commercial break. But when Cena's getting his entrance, he is described on commentary as Raw's supercharged superstar, and I don't think that picks up any steam. I don't think I've ever heard it uttered after this one episode. But anyway, after the break, Miz is in the ring, they're getting ready to wrestle, and then we see Piven and Ken on the stage. And Jeremy says, John, I have a confession to make. I'm really excited about this match. I'm a real big fan of yours, but I'm an even bigger fan of Randy Orton. And then Ken just goes, ta-da, and takes his coat off to reveal it's an Orton shirt. I had to look at it for a couple of seconds because Orton's shirt was so muddled and indistinct. I had to figure out what it was. And so Piven goes, and that's why I've handpicked every single lumberjack here myself. And I'm like, isn't that your job? As the matchmaker, you also pick the Lumberjacks? And so then they're making their way down to the ring, and Dr. Ken's just now, shut up, fat boy, shut up. I'm from Hollywood, shut your mouth. Oh no, what a heel turn. I can't believe this guy who was already really annoying to listen to is now gonna be equally annoying to listen to, but now he's just telling us to shut up. Anyway, the Lumberjacks in this matchup are all 3 members of Legacy, Chavo Guerrero, Carlito, Chris Masters, and Jack Swagger. So just if you're keeping score, they re-debuted Chris Masters last week. Oh my God, surprise return. And he's already just kind of in the background here as a lumberjack. So early in the match, Cena instinctively powders out of the ring after an early sequence. Dex Carlito runs right back in the ring. I thought that was great. And then The Miz is thrown out a second later, and then Chavo is out there gently helping him up, and he's patting him on the back. Okay, man, you got this, give him space. I thought that was good stuff. Cena's knocked outside. We get the master lock. Come on, Chris, this is the one spot you've got all match. You get that master lock in there, good. and the referee can't do anything about it. Cena is just like, he's passed out after being in the hold forever, so his carcass is thrown into the ring, but Cena is still able to fight. He starts mounting the comeback, but Orton pulls that top rope down. Cena flies out of the ring. More lumberjack beating to Cena. Dr. Ken handing us Kane to The Miz. We get a swing and a miss. Cena hits the AA, the cover, and the win. Well, lol, Cena wins. Was there any doubt of that happening? But Cena is surrounded after the match immediately. Then suddenly Jeremy Piven, apropos of nothing, gets on the top rope. Like, what possessed him in character to do this? I just don't get it. So he's on the top rope. Cena sees him all day, and they're just looking, they're locking eyes. They're trading a cookie recipe. They're up there so long. Piven's doing like cutting the throat. He just shakes his head, finally jumps out, does a nice jump, puts the arms and legs out, and so Cena catches him in midair. He's got him there. He's like swinging him around, using him as kind of like a weapon as more heels run in. And then Dr. Ken, he's got the cane now, hits Cena from behind. Cena no-sells it. Piven runs out, and we get this moment here where Ken is just totally groveling and trying to apologize. He's like, we did it. We're the good guys. Yes, the bad guys lost. He's trying to give Cena a shoulder rub. He's like really laying it on, this whole obsequious thing he's doing. And so then Cena puts his hand out. Ken takes it, they shake, and then Cena immediately picks up this scrawny Ken Jeong and then throws him out into the arms of the waiting heels. And I think the heels did a pretty good job catching him, but Dr. Ken forgets the primary rule, tuck your chin, because boy, his head, it really hits the mat hard there. So that was certainly a match to make Cena look good, and he did. And The Miz is banned from the Summerfest and from Raw for eternity, I guess, as the show fades to black. And I'm gonna give this episode of Raw a 1.5 out of 5. Just so many of the matches on this show were, derivative from the previous weeks with similar results. Or just flip-flop for the sake of argument. And then those matches, though, were already derivative of other matches from before. Any good outcomes from the matches on this show were just immediately nullified. And how unoriginal are these guest hosts? How is it, or maybe it's just a massive coincidence where they're all coming in fresh and like, wow, I've never seen Hornswoggle versus Chavo Guerrero before. Wow, I really want to see Evan Bourne versus Jack Swagger. I don't know what happened before then. How can they all be so repetitive and unoriginal with their booking? And speaking of guest hosts, it's got to be the collective of Jeremy Piven and Ken Jeong is a 1 out of 5. Because, look, if Jeremy Piven had never said Summerfest, then this would simply be a cheeky time capsule for 2009. Like, wow, the star of Entourage and like this sleeper hit character from The Hangover are on this show. What a fun look back at 2009 this is. But no, like, he ruins it by saying Summerfest. And I liked his energy. Like I said, I think his character worked really well for the setting. I think his motives at the end for the random heel turn, it didn't make any sense. But I thought that Piven in this role was entertaining. Dr. Ken, and the number would have been higher if Dr. Ken was not there. Again, Ken Jeong, I like his work typically, but God almighty, he was so annoying on this show. And for him to be like, I'm a bad guy now, but he's just as annoying as a heel as a face. So where's the betrayal with that? That felt like a Vince Russo kind of swerve. I'm watching so much 2000 WCW right now, and that whole thing with Piven and Jeong and the heel turn at the end just felt like that. And boy, Santino Marella must have been pissed that Dr. Ken was there, because that's his job, is to be the wacky, annoying sidekick. And Dr. Ken totally stole his thunder for that one. But yeah, Summerfest, he's never gonna live that down. yeah, you can't get much bigger of a flub as an outsider than saying the name of the big pay-per-view wrong. I'm sorry. My pick for the best match of the show had to be the handicap match for Triple H versus Legacy. It was given the most time, it told the best story, and that's really all you can ask for. As far as the worst, it's got to be Chavo versus, well, I guess it was Mark Swoggle, not Hornswoggle, but Hornswoggle was there anyway, despite not being there. So there you go. As far as the rankings go for the all-time guest host, 6 episodes in, as is predicted, Jeremy Piven, and parentheses Ken Jeong, falls near the bottom. They are going to enter this countdown 5th of all time, just above ZZ Top. But you know what? As I always say, we are very early into this experiment. Jeremy Piven might outlast more people than you think in this field of guest hosts. But we're going to find out next time when Sergeant Slaughter makes his way and rejoins the ranks of WWE TV as the guest host. But what did you think of this week's episode? What do you think about Jeremy Piven and his legacy in WWE and the Summerfest? I want to hear all about it in the comment section below. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, hit that bell icon to get all the notifications. I'm Brian Zane, and I will see you next time on Guest Host Raw.